Okay, back to my buyer series. We are on the offer is accepted, now what? So with that, you have qualified a buyer, you set them up on a search, you went and showed them properties. These are all the classes we're going through. We made the offer, and now they've accepted your offer. So what happens now? So you submit an offer and the seller accepts. Yay! What do we do from that point? Okay, we bundle all the executed documents together. That's going to be your residential purchase agreement, which is the RPA, any counteroffers, any addendums, any paperwork that's executed by both parties. When we say executed paperwork, it always means it's been signed by both of the parties. Or sometimes you could just have one sheet of paper that only needs like the buyer's signature. Once it's executed, that means the buyer has signed it. But in this case, with all of this paperwork here, executed means both parties have signed it. So you bundle it all together, pretty much anything that's important to the transaction between the buyer and seller, and then you're going to send it over to title. So question, the listing agent listed the property, you represent the buyer, you made the offer, so they accepted it, so who sends this paperwork over? Who bundles it over and sends it to title, to open escrow?
Either party can, right?
Perfect. Yes, because Tim and I get into this sometimes, and he's like, well, it should be the buyer. And I'm like, well, as a listing agent, I want to make sure it gets done. Because some buyers' agents just don't, they're like, okay, here's the RPA. I'm like, okay, where's the counters? They don't know. They haven't included any information. So I always say, hey, even if both parties do it, at least we get all of the information, and then sometimes more than what's expected, but it's already there. So to me, whoever wants to do it, but I don't care what side I'm on, I always do it. I just do. And I don't say, hey, I'm sending everything over. I just go ahead and do it. Because there's emails along the way that I include with the buyers and the buyer's agent in it, and then just the title company and my seller's information in it. So it says you're going to send an email to the title company, the lender, the listing agent, and Maria in compliance, okay? And then you're going to CC me and Tim on it. Okay, or BCC me and Tim on it. That would be the best way because, again, most of the time, you could CC us because we've got to review everything anyways, but it's just a lot of people on there. But you always want to send it to Maria because on your first 3 transactions, everything goes to Maria so she can enter it into SkySlope, right? So she's going to need them anyway. So if you include her in there, she's already got all the paperwork. So the email goes like this. Hi, Jennifer. Congratulations, everyone. Because I use Jennifer Croft at Rock Title. If you need her card, she's right outside the door. But we always want to try to use Rock Title. Rock Title is our title company at Realty One Group. We have 3 offices, Northwest, Southwest, and Green Valley. And then we have our marketing reps, Tim Sams and Anthony Antolin, right? We'll do anything for you. But then you'll find your favorite escrow officer. I choose to use Jennifer Croft. She's up at the Northwest location. She's super awesome. I like the location. It's easy to get in and out of. So you think about that because you're going to go to your client signing, whether they're the buyer or the seller. You should attend your client signing. And as I was explaining to Rachel earlier, it's really just for support because they're going to send you what's called the settlement statement the day before you sign. You're going to review everything. And then when you show up at signing, they sit down, and whether it's a mobile notary or the escrow officer, and it's you and your clients, and they're going to say, hi, welcome, nice to meet you. Can I please see your IDs? So your clients give them the IDs. They sign in the notary book, and then they say, here's the settlement statement that you already reviewed. And they give it to you. You look it over, give it to them. They're good, and then they sign it. The rest of the time, you're just sitting there just for support in case they have a question. And a lot of times it's like, oh, well, I don't see the home warranty on there. And then you're like, oh, well, remember when we asked for repairs, they took the home warranty out? Oh, okay. They don't remember what's going on throughout that whole transaction. So your job is just to sit there for support. But let me tell you, 75 to 90% of agents don't go. And every time I show up at these title companies, they're like, oh, you're an agent that actually comes. Because sometimes if there's a question, they don't really know the answer. So now you're left, everybody's sitting there trying to get a hold of you. Now, there are a handful of times I haven't been there. I've been out of state. I had a 6th child. There is whatever. But I know when they're signing, and I'm on the phone, put me on speaker. I'm not there physically, but I'm here with you. Whatever I have to do, because you will shine bright if you just are there with them throughout that transaction. Because, again, we have to show our value, and this is one of those ways to do it. The lenders see it. The title companies see it. Your clients see it. It's more than just, hey, I'm here. You're just dressed to the nines, go there, and I'm like, I'm here for support. You're gonna bring your big old file of paperwork to show that you've been doing things the whole 30 to 60 days. And you're like, oh, here. And from time to time, I'll open my file as they're signing, and I just rustle through my papers. I don't know what I'm looking at, but it makes it, look at all these papers. And I'm like, what is that? Oh, yeah, I do see that right here. Yep. And then I just make sure they see that you've been doing work this whole time, because a lot of people think they just find them, I'm a door opener. That's it. No, I've been doing stuff behind the scenes that you guys didn't realize. I just kept it quiet. You didn't have to know about this. I kept the stress off your shoulders. So with that, you're going to want to, anybody can send this email over, and you're going to say, congratulations, please open escrow for 123 Main Street, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89123, whatever. You're going to put that address in there. And then you're going to put everyone's contact information is listed below. Could you please send out wiring instructions ASAP? I look forward to a smooth transaction and working with all of you. Okay? And then I kind of bullet point what it is. We already put the address, so I put purchase price $340, escrow to be opened with Rock Title, Jennifer Croft, because she's already CC'd on there, right? But then that way the lender and whoever else needs to know that if they have transaction coordinators, because they'll tell you, please send everything to my TC, which is a transaction coordinator. And so you're now CCing all these people. There could be 15 people, emails on this every single time you do send an email out in this transaction. There's lots of people involved, right? EMD, which is earnest money deposit, is wired within 3 business days. And then that way, if I represent the seller, I've just alerted everybody that, hey, title needs to get the buyer wiring instruction. That buyer needs to hurry up and get to the bank and get us wired money. Because after 3 days, we can cancel the deal because we haven't received that earnest money. Estimated close of escrow, due diligence days, 10 days, appraisal contingency, 18 days, loan contingency, 21 days, home warranty, buyer to choose, seller pays up to $600. That's all, that's negotiable about the home warranty, right? But you're just gonna kind of spell out this kind of information. And if you go to the second page, that's when I start listing all the contact information. Buyers, John Doe and his email and phone number. Jane Doe, her email and phone number. Now, I used to not do this because it goes to the listing agent, but I always have a conversation with my clients. If this listing agent ever calls you, you need to let me know right away, because that listing agent should not be talking to you. But this is mainly for the lender. This is made for the lender's assistant, any TC, like Maria, if Maria needs to call them, which she usually doesn't. But the title company, the title escrow assistants, like this is for everybody in there, right? And then put buyer's agent, my information, then seller, Jack Russell, whatever, with all, at this point, I'm to represent the buyer. I don't have anything but Jack Russell's name, if you notice, because I don't have his stuff. You represent one party, you'll have their contact information. The other party doesn't have your contact information. So I put that in there just so they know who the buyer's name is. And then I put listing agent, name, email, phone number. Then I put the lender. Why that's important? Because sometimes title has to call the lender. So now I've put it all out there. Title and escrow, okay, don't use, it says in here charity bond. Charity's no longer with us. So don't use that, but you're going to fill this in with your information for your transaction, okay? So don't follow this word by word, but at least you know what you're supposed to do there. So lender, title and escrow, I even put Jennifer Croft, because now this is going to the lender needs the title's information, right? And then you include everybody's email in there. So if you go to the next page, there are strict timelines throughout the transaction, so mark that date down on the form that we give you and keep an eye on those dates. Okay, so, do I have it in here? I don't, do I? Yes. There's gonna be a form that looks like this, the Realty One, to help everyone keep everyone on track, fill out the important contingency dates. Okay, so you have a RPA, Residential Purchase Agreement, that you represent the buyer. You filled out the RPA. On the very first page of the RPA, this is a whole other class, but there'll be a date. That's the date that you filled the offer out, and then on the last page is the date that they signed it and accepted, everybody, okay? So, when it says under contract date, say they accepted it today. So I sent my offer over, everybody executed it today. So today's date is the 12th, right? So you would put under contract February 12th. Earnest money due date ends, okay? When is day one? When do you start counting? Because I said 3 days, 3 business days. When does the 3 days start? Today? Tomorrow. Whenever you're counting contingency dates, it's the day after it's been accepted. So today is the 12th. So day one starts the 13th, 14th, and 15th. So by the end of business day on the 15th is where you would put in there. Due diligence date, right? So it was accepted on the 12th. So day one is the 13th, 14th, and we usually do 10-day due diligence. So then you would count the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. So 10 days. Same with appraisal and same with loan. Closing date is, and it will be in the contract, close on or before March 15th. So you would put March 15th. It's always on or before. So with that, you'll put that there unless you've got a specific thing going on. There's a rent back or something like that. So with that, we'll come back to this one. So now we go back to this page 3, I think it is. The listing agent should email you the SRPD and smart home disclosure, if applicable, within 5 days. I try to get it before my inspector goes to the property. So what happens is we open escrow. They accept our offer. We open escrow. The minute we open escrow, I call my inspector. I talk to my buyer and I say, do you have a home inspector you would like to use? Here are 2 that I use frequently. Do you have a preference? And here, look them up real quick and then tell me which one you'd like to go with, and I'll go ahead and set the appointment. So then they pick the one they want, and then I call my home inspector that same day because it could take him 2 or 3 days to get into the property. My guy, I've used him so much, I can get him there within 24 hours. He move things around, get in there. He's going to do the inspection, and I won't get the report for another 24 hours. So now we're 3 days in, right? So with that, you're going to get the SRPD. That's 3 days in. The SRPD is this form here. It's called the Seller's Real Property Disclosure Form. It's 5 pages. And it looks like this. Now this form, when you're representing the seller, do not touch this form as a listing agent. The sellers are the only ones. Don't put the address, but don't put the date. Do not write anything on this form. You say, I need you to fill this out. Okay? Because it's any known issues with the home. And if you write on it, they can say, oh, I didn't write that. They wrote that. See, they put the address in there. They went in there and filled this in. And now it becomes a dispute. What happens is if your clients are not honest, okay, and they had a roof leak or a plumbing issue, and they did not disclose that, like cause major issues, and they didn't disclose it, they just patched it up and nobody knew about it, and then 2 years down the road, the buyer's having issues, they call a plumber and he's like, this has been repaired before, and your sellers had not disclosed that. The buyers have up to 6 years to come back after those sellers for 3 times the amount it costs to repair it. So it's a very costly endeavor. So when I'm doing as a listing agent, I always say I need you to be as honest and open as possible. I'd rather disclose it and have them walk away than get you guys in a lawsuit, because this is going to be hanging over your head for 6 years. Be as completely honest as possible on here. So once we open escrow, I immediately send out an email. Let's go back to this. Okay, so that email that I said that you spell all this stuff out in a listing agent, I send that with everybody's information. And then I'll send a separate email as a buyer's agent. I'll send a separate email. Hi, Jennifer. I'm the buyer's agent for 123 Main Street. Here's my client's information. Could you please send us wiring instructions? And nowadays, most title companies have a separate portal. Rock Title has what's called Qualia, Qualia. And it goes directly to the buyer, and then there's another one goes directly to you. And it's like encrypted, so nobody else can get in there. And Title uploads wiring instructions there, and then the buyer logs in and gets those wiring instructions and takes them to the bank. Because we have a form that's called wire fraud, letting everybody know about wire fraud. There's a lot of wire fraud scams going on. And it's been for the past couple of years, whereas Title was sending the wire instructions to us, and we were sending it to our clients. And people were intercepting them along the way, changing it to their bank accounts and sending it on to the buyers. And next thing your buyers are depositing $50,000 into this account when it should have gone to Title. Yeah. So then they said, nope, we're going directly to the buyer. Title to buyer, keeping us out of it. Awesome. Yep, still happening. And so they intercept it, change it, and go over there. So what we were saying is, okay, when you get wire instructions, before you wire money, call Jennifer Croft and ask and just say, I just want to repeat the wiring instructions. She verifies, then you go ahead and do it. They were catching it that way. But now the better way to do it is an encrypted, like, holding area, like digital holding area, file holding. And so title wires them, or it uploads them in there, and then buyer has to go in there and take them. So with that, I send this email out. Can you please send wire instructions ASAP? Can you please send out the HOA, link to the seller so they can order that? We want to get all that stuff moving, right? And in the meantime, I send an email to the listing agent. And I say, could you please send us the SRPD and HomeSmart disclosure ASAP? I like to give it to my home inspector. Because when I say that, my home inspector is going inspecting the whole house, but he might miss something that they had put on this, because he's just looking at the overall. He's not checking out wiring behind the walls or plumbing under, he's checking underneath things, but he's not checking things behind the walls. So if there's a known issue and there was a water leak, say behind one of the bathrooms into a closet that he didn't know about, at least now he could take his water meter and go test the wall to see if it's dried up. So I like to get the SRPD, review it, and then if there's anything on there, I send it to my home inspector. But if they're all check marked no, fine, then that's all good. But there will be yeses on here and on pretty much every home. So on page 2, number 8, any features of the property shared in common with adjoining landowners, such as walls, fences, roads, driveways, or other features whose responsibility for maintenance may have an effect on the property. Most of that time, it's a yes, because everybody shares backyard walls. Most everybody shares backyard walls, right? So with that, it could be a vinyl wall, it could be a block wall. It is what it is, but most everybody has them. And then right underneath that, number 9, common interest community. So that should be marked yes. Common interest community should be marked yes. And then on page 3, you need to fill out any yeses. So that would be number 8, page 2, number 8, we share backyard walls with neighbors. Page 2, number 9, yes, we are in an HOA, ABC Management Company, $68 a month. A sit-in lid of $2,000 a year, whatever you want to so yeses are not always a bad thing, because the question it asks you here, are you aware of any problems or defects with the following? They're gonna write NA if it doesn't apply, like a septic or a well or a fireplace. If it doesn't, the house or the property does not have any of those items, it's NA. But if it has it and there's no problems, you're going to write no. If it has it and there's known problems, you're going to write yes. Any yeses have to be disclosed on page 3. Okay, so with that, we sent the emails out. We got our SRPD. The HomeSmart. HomeSmart is any item in the home that uses Wi-Fi. Your Ring doorbell, your Nest thermostat, your refrigerators sometimes have Wi-Fi. To see what's going on inside your refrigerator, which I don't know why. I mean, I guess if you need to go to the grocery store and you don't remember what you got in your fridge, okay. But who knows? If it needs Wi-Fi, it needs to be on here. And then at the very top, it'll ask you, top left, internet speed. A lot of people working from home now, so they need to know what your internet speed is, and if there's not enough in that home, they might not be able to buy your home, okay? So you need to just fill that out accordingly. So that and that. So then, you'll need to schedule your home inspection. Takes about 24 hours after that to receive the report back. So don't wait till day 6 to get the guy out there. And day 7, you get your report. Day 8, you review it and send them a repair request, because then you're like waiting for them to respond, and your due diligence ends at day 10. You want to try to get that inspector out there within the first 3 days, so you can figure out, because sometimes they'll say, hey, everything looks good, but I recommend a roofer to come out and inspect the missing tiles. Okay, now it might take 3 or 4 days to get a roofer to go back out there. You've got to do all of this in 10 days. So you really want to get the first inspection report done at the beginning in case there's additional ones you have to order. So call, text, or email the listing agent to inform them of when you're doing the inspection. Even if it's a vacant property, you need to give the courtesy to that listing agent. I always do it by email if it's vacant, just letting you know. Home inspection is set for Thursday at 3 o'clock. Is that okay? Yep, property's vacant. Yeah, I know. But if there's somebody living in the home, You're going to call your inspector and say, we have somebody living in the home. What are 3 available time slots? Then you call the listing agent. These are the time slots. They talk to their seller. Then they come back to you, and you try to coordinate it that way. If it takes 3 or 4 more days, you say, okay, if we can't get in there for 3 or 4 more days, do you mind extending that due diligence period because it just ate up 3 or 4 more days, 3 days of my due diligence period. And then you write an addendum to extend the due diligence. But again, when you're doing your transaction, guys, you're in contact with me and Tim the whole time. Hey, Wendy, our offer got accepted. I'm included on all the emails. And then you're like, okay, what's next? Okay, this is what you're going to do. Send an email here. Like, I am with you the whole way, telling you what to do every step. Okay? So don't feel like, okay, I'm not going to remember all this. Of course you're not going to remember all this. That's what I'm here for. Okay, so then I try to get the inspector within 48 hours. That way I can leave the remaining days to do additional inspections. Inspector will send you and the buyers a report. You will review that report with the buyers and make a repair request if needed. You will always come back with something. Even brand new homes come back with something on these home inspection reports. I generally tell my client, my buyers, they're going to be 2-3 pages, 50, 60 items on here that he might mention. That does not mean that we're asking the seller to fix those. Think of the big ticket items that would stop you from buying a home. Your roof, your windows, your appliances, like water heaters, $1,000, $2,000 sometimes. Anything that's huge. ACs are huge. They're $10,000 a pop. Some of these have 2 or 3 ACs, you know, so that's a huge expense. And if the seller isn't willing to fix them, then that comes out of the buyer. So like, think of those. I really, it annoys me when people are like, I want all new light switch covers. They're 25 cents, guys. You know what? Update them yourselves. You know, if there's a plumbing issue, I always do safety. If it is a safety item, smoke detectors, electrical, I don't mess with that. So I always put in there, and we go over that. But when I send my repair request out, which I think I have one in here.
Can we legally tell them that? Like, not to worry about that and just concentrate on the big ticket?
I always do. I'm like, guys, everything you ask for is money out of that seller's pocket. Yeah. So the more you ask for, the less, because here's my thinking. If you ask for 10 items, that seller's going to go for the cheapest 10. And then you're going to put AC on there. They're going to say, well, I don't want to do the AC, but I'll do everything else. Well, that's $200, and an AC is $7,000. So now I'm stuck with the $7,000 bill. You are buying a resale home that needs maintenance. It is not going to be perfect. So the things that you can do along the way, great. But think about the big ticket items. If we need to adjust pricing, if we need to ask them to fix it before we get in there. But this is where you would do your repair request. You would do repair request number 1, fill out all this information, and then it'd say you have to list all the items that you want. So what I do is when we're going over the report, I say, okay, give me your top 10 items, because I've already reviewed the report. I already know. If there's not many on there, give me your top 5 or top 6 items, right? And then I say, okay, put them in order of importance. What's your number 1? I can't buy this house unless this is fixed. And then go down from there. And then we kind of go over it. Okay, well, how much do we think that'll cost? Why don't you, and I tell them, why don't you Google, because they're like, that fan in the living room, blah, 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 blah. Google how much the fan is that you might want. Not that you're not trying to get us money. You know, they'll put a $5,000 fan when, you know, a $600 fan would be sufficient. But just Google something that's like for like. A refrigerator, even though it's an appliance, they're usually as is, but I always say, hey, it's a really nice stainless steel appliance in there, a refrigerator in there. What would it cost to replace that? Because it's not working properly. They're not going to fix it. I'm sure they're not going to fix it. Because washer, dryer, refrigerator are, they might leave them, they might not. It's not a deal breaker. It's not a make or break to get a loan. So if they leave it and it's not working, hey, do you guys need one? Let's say, yeah. But if there's something major, like we need a roof repair, we need an AC, you can ask them to fix it. You can ask them to take money off the sales price. You can ask them to give you a credit for closing costs. There's different ways that you can spell that out. But we're not putting $8,000 worth of little piddly stuff. I had one, it was a 1,000 square foot condo. They asked me to repaint the whole interior because it was original paint. Okay, it's white. The whole place is white. There's not one touch of color anywhere. It was a 75-year-old woman that lived in there. She was very tidy, and I'm like, why would we repaint this? Like, no, you know, it's just ridiculous requests. You guys are going to go in there and repaint it anyways. Now, you can ask for a flooring credit if the floor is all messed up. I get that. They're walking on or whatever. Chances are, and I tell my buyers before I show them a home, just assume you're going to need to do flooring and paint in every house. And if you don't, great, you save some money. But if you do, just assume, so you're not going in there going, well, I need $15,000 off to repaint the floor. They've probably already adjusted for that in that pricing, right? But again, you'll do comps and everything. But so this is really to spell out the most important things that they need, that they're requesting, these repairs to be done before, or a credit to closing costs so they can get them done before moving in. So that's what that's for. And then I don't know where that went. Okay. So the inspector's going to send you and the buyer the report. You review the report, and then you go over the report with them, and then that's when you make that repair request. And you want to do that as soon as possible. Don't let it sit for 2 or 3 days. Because again, you only have that 7 or 10 day due diligence period, whatever you negotiated in that purchase agreement. So you want to get it done and back to them as soon as possible. Now at Realty One Group, we have, when we're making our residential purchase agreement, when we're making that offer, we have a little saying and whatever, the instructions that we put in additional terms. And it says, I don't have it per verbiage here, but however many days it takes the seller to respond in writing to us about our repair request, we are going to add those amount of days back to our due diligence period. So if we ask for a 10-day due diligence period, we gave them our repair request at day 5, and then 5 days later, they decide to respond to us and our due diligence ends that night. What happens if your due diligence period ends and they haven't responded to you? You have just a couple options. You can cancel the deal, or you can move forward as is. That's it. Like if they're not responding to you, those are your only options. So by writing this little saying there, we say, hey, you could take as long as you want, but however many days you take to respond to us, we're going to tack that on to the end. So my 10 days just turned into 20 days, which means you're staying contingent the whole time, so you can still back out at any time to get your earnest money back. So I don't see many other brokerages doing that, but I'm like, why they're not watching out for their people?
Does that usually get them to move?
Yeah,
faster?
yeah, definitely, because they're like, no, we don't want to extend this. So with that, it puts the safety back onto our clients, because it's not my fault that they don't answer. But that back in the day, they used to do that. They used to wait for it to expire, and then you're like, okay, either go forward as is, or I got to cancel the deal. And that was that. And you would see that a lot when the price changed or somebody gave them a better offer after they accepted ours, and they're like, okay, we'll just wait for them to back out, and then we'll just take this other offer. So, all right. So title will send wiring instructions to the buyer, usually within 24 hours, and then that buyer initiates the wire instructions. The wiring over to the escrow officer. So once that happens, I always put in there, please have the buyer call title to verify the water instructions before wiring any money. Even though it goes through that Qualia system, I still have them call up Jennifer and say, hey, just want to verify wire instructions, because those are large chunks of money they're wiring over. Sometimes, like we did one for $2.6 million, it was $100,000, just in earnest money. So if something went wrong, the buyers forfeit that, or somebody intercepts that. That's a huge chunk of money. It's not like $1,000, $2,000, but even so, that $1,000 or $2,000 is all these buyers have sometimes. So if somebody takes that, now they can't get a house. So it does, you want to make sure, and if you've told them and they haven't done it and something happens, hey, you have it in writing, I told them to verify. It's not my fault that they did not. Okay. Then the buyers will call Jennifer. I'm just calling to verify my wire instructions for 123 Main Street. She'll ask the buyer to read the numbers, then make sure, and then the buyers will take the wire to the bank. Once EMD has received a title, they'll email you a receipt as the buyer's agent. And that goes to Maria, and she uploads it into our SkySlope system. Then, in the meantime, the lender will be in contact with the buyers, requesting other documentation. The lender will order the appraisal, and the buyers will pay for the appraisal at that time. So when buyers ask you, how much money do I have to come out of pocket like right now before the close of escrow? It's usually like $400 to $500 for a home inspection. And usually could be like $500 or $600 for an appraisal. So you're looking, I always tell them $1,000 to $1,200. And then nothing else is usually due to the end, unless you get the home inspection back and you need to get additional inspections. You might have to pay $150 for a roofer or a plumber or whatever. Sometimes, not everybody gives free estimates. And so sometimes they're like, hey, it's $150, but then when you use us, we take that off the bill. But you have to remember, these companies are like a plumber. They're going out there inspecting all this plumbing and then leaving. They had to pay their plumber to go out there, and then we never used them. We just were getting an estimate. So it takes time away from them, so that's why they're charging those fees. So I explained that to the buyer. It's going to cost you $150 up front, but then if the seller chooses to use them or whatever, or you do it after, just use that company and they'll take it back off, right? So in the meantime, the seller should be ordering the HOA docs. They usually should do that within 72 hours because it could take up to 14 days for that HOA to return those documents to us, right? So once we receive those documents, that it goes right to the seller and then the listing agent, and then they have to forward it to us as the buyer's agent. When you get that email, immediately give it to your buyers, like within an hour or so. So you're constantly checking. As a realtor, guys, your phone is never off. You're always checking email, always checking messages. First things first, if nobody's done it in here, I'm going to tell you. Hi, this is Wendy Schaller with Realty One Group. Sorry I missed your call. Please leave your name and number. As soon as your division license comes in, make that voicemail, because nothing is more frustrating than realtors that have the generic, the number of you've called is not answering. You don't sound official. You don't sound real. I'll be honest with you, as a listing agent, I got 4 offers and I call every single agent. And when I get one of those, I'm like, that's going to be a nightmare. And then I look at their offer and it's half filled out. It's going to be a nightmare. I respond to them. It's 24 hours before it's going to be a nightmare. So I tell my clients, this is a decent offer, but it's been a nightmare trying to deal with them. And they're just not as professional. They're probably working a full-time job. They don't respond. It's going to be tough. And sometimes that'll make or break your offer. So be as professional as possible. So with that, you're going to, where did I leave off here? Oh, so the HOA can take about 14 days. They send it to you, you send it to your buyer. You legally have 5 days, your buyer has 5 days to review those HOA documents. If they don't like something in there, they can back out. But if not, they're buying it as is, no matter what. I've had people back out because they can't park their work truck in the driveway. I've had backed out because he had a parrot, and he was afraid because he's buying in a condo. And they said any noise nuisance, they can evict you from the property and ask you if it's pet related. They can ask you to remove your pet. And he's like, I'm not buying here. There could be any reason. People didn't like that they can't have their trash cans more than 12 hours out by the curb. You don't know. That they wanted to paint their door purple, and they said, nope, I'm not buying here because I can't. We don't know, and it's not your job to go through those documents.
I was going to say, when is it that you know they're not going to read it?
Nope. No, and some of them do, but this is what I do.
Yeah.
There's also, keep in mind, people with animals. When I'm showing a buyer, I always get their criteria. Do you have any pets? Yep, I have 2 dogs. What kind of dogs and how big are your dogs? Because we have some houses here that have vinyl fencing, and if you get a dog that's 60 pounds or more that jumps on that vinyl fencing, it can come down. So even though they're buying that house, there is a pet restriction sometimes because of the fencing. And it has nothing to do with but there are some subdivisions I've seen, they don't allow certain kind of dogs. And it's not just renters, it's, so you have to ask that stuff. So then if you already know that up front, when they get that HOA package, you're like, guys, I know you have dogs. You can look at the table of contents and you can see where it says pets, whatever. You can see parking, whatever. You can direct them, hey, parking is on page, whatever. Don't read through that, because how you interpret it might be different how they interpret it. And then you told me this and I told, no, nope.
It's their responsibility.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when I'm a listing agent and a buyer's agent calls up and says, hey, are we allowed to have blah, 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 the property? I'll say, here's the HOA number. Why don't you give them a call? Find out. I don't want the responsibility.
I was just going to ask you, because the HOA number is listed in the MLS.
Yeah, it sure is.
You could just give it to your own client and have them call before they pay for the
Absolutely.
appraisal, all that good stuff.
And how efficient are they? Are they
Not much,
that
but
due diligence timing? I'm like, dealing with HOAs is a nightmare as it is anyway.
Well, here's the thing. You'll call them and they'll answer. But it doesn't mean you're going to get the answer that you want.
Right.
Because they're just going to go, what is it? Oh, let me see. Okay, on page
Chances
2,
different people.
and they read you what it says. So you know about it, and you'll say, okay, what? Now, I have a lot of clients because I focused on RV parking. So I always say, are there any RV parking restrictions in there? Because the side yard is big enough, can we put an RV gate in there? Because some people are like, I'm not buying a house unless I can park my RV there. And I always tell them, we don't have to specifically look for a gate, but I can call ahead and see, hey, we know we have 14 feet on this side. The roof comes down here. I mean, there's all dimensions that I had to worry about. But I just needed to know for legal reasons if we were allowed to have one in there. And so you have to call ahead. And I'll say, okay, I'll call ahead. I'll find out information. If it sounds like it is, then I tell them to call. Because I'm not giving them that information. They called, they found out, so if it doesn't work out, it didn't come from me. You guys called the HOA, right? Okay, so buyer can order any other inspection during the due diligence period. That due diligence period, it's usually like 10 days is what we're doing as average right now. It's not just for inspecting the home. I tell them to drive by in the evening, go on Metro's crime reports, go on the sex offenders reports. You guys do your due diligence about this property. Find out anything you need to find out about the property, the school, the floodplain, everything. And if you let me know if you still want to move forward with it. But that due diligence is the only time frame that they're going to have to inspect anything about the property to decide if they're moving forward. They can't at day 25 say, you know what, I just found out there's a sex offender on the street and I don't want to buy here anymore. Well, if you back out, we're out of all contingencies, so you're going to forfeit your earnest money. There's no reason we should be backing out this late in the game. And I'm there to help support my buyer, but I've told them along the way, we have a 10-day due diligence period on Friday at 5 o'clock. I need to know, and usually I do it on day 9. I need to know at Friday at 5 o'clock because our due diligence ends tomorrow. So if there's anything I need to inspect or call the other agent on, I need to know about it now. So then that way, if you don't like it, we can back out and still get our earnest money. But otherwise, you might be forfeiting that earnest money.
Wendy, how do you deal with people that are like coming from out of state, that they're not physically present here and they're putting that load on you? Like you're walking through that, I didn't go there at night, I didn't know how noisy it was, or how do you deal with that?
What you can do is FaceTime video. Just know we can't do our own walkthroughs at the end, okay? Do not take that responsibility. So they'll have a neighbor, they'll have a friend, they'll have a relative, they can fly into town, whatever. You can hire a third party. Your home inspectors sometimes will do that. You pay them extra to go back through and make sure everything's done. But we ourselves as agents are not allowed to do that. And I had firsthand experience with that. We bought a house in Arkansas for an Airbnb, and we weren't there. And so the agent, which I knew was a problem at the very beginning, but I still went forward with him. And so I'm like, that's okay, let's go. So we go to do the walkthrough, and all he cared about, yep, it's good, yep, it's good. And I was like, wait, can you get closer on that? They had a balcony, like a, what do you call it? Not a porch, but it's a wooden balcony, and you step, it's on the back side, and you step down, and we put a spa, and then you step down again. But yeah, like a patio, but it's not really like, because the only way out is on the second story, the way they build it. So then you have to, it's like your porch, I guess, but it's up top. And then you step down the stairs, and we built another porch, and then step down again. But when I got there after we closed, I'm like, nobody lean against this thing because you are going to fall off the second story. You could see, right, the nails, like one thing ended here, there was a nail, and I'm like, this is not even touching. Our sinks, under every sink, they have 2x4s just holding up the sink underneath. I'm like, he took, I don't know why, but the cabinets are all black. They literally just went like this and took black spray paint and went that all over the walls. You go like this, and it's behind the pipe still white, but looking at it is black. I'm like, what is going on?
He did the final walkthrough for you.
Because in that state, they're allowed to do that. And we didn't know anybody else in the state, so I said, okay. Yeah. We had doors that weren't closing, bathroom doors. You're in the bathroom, you could see all the way around the door, and I'm like, because it was a barn door, I'm like, well, this doesn't even fit the doorway. Nothing, like nothing. So naturally, as a realtor, not happy, because I'm like, how could you? And he's like, it's fine, they wouldn't have closed. As I said, they wouldn't have closed. We wouldn't have closed if we had known. But I told my husband, you need to fly out there. And he's like, no, it's good. My husband is a little bit more passive than me. I'm a little bit hardcore. So I let my husband, and he won't make that mistake again. But so what we ended up spending $10,000 after we moved in, after we closed, fixing everything. They had to lay sod. They said it was too cold to lay sod, and then I called the sod company. They said, no, we lay sod all the time. And their idea of what they said was on the side. It was 2 rows on the side when we needed 16 rows on the side. They only put 2 rows. But that's what happens when you close before. We'll do it after. No, don't worry. Unless it's spelled out in specifics, guys, you can't trust what's going on there. So that's why we want to release that liability off of you guys. Do not do those walkthroughs.
So
now,
you actually have your client always present at the house to do the
Oh, yeah.
walkthrough. And there's a form they send you, right?
No, yeah, there's a walkthrough form.
Yeah.
It used to be like 3 pages long, but
Yeah,
now it's just one form. And it's just like who's conducting the walkthrough. And you have to put their name, whether it's them, their representative, whatever. And the home inspectors, they don't like to have to pay them again, but guys, I can't do the walkthrough for you. If you'd like, I can coordinate it with the home inspector and he can come back out for you.
Right.
And then take that
And that's
responsibility.
legally not okay in the state?
I don't know if the state, but at Realty One, we don't allow it to happen.
Gotcha.
So no FaceTime walk?
No, you can, and I've done one because my people were coming from Canada and they were stuck in a blizzard. They couldn't get there, and so I was already out in Pahrump, and I'm like, "Where are you guys?" They're like, "We're stuck." I'm like, "You guys couldn't have called me yesterday and told me you're stuck." So I did a walkthrough. I did a walkthrough, but I said I'm not counting this as a walkthrough. I had the new home representative because I was a builder. I said I need your representative and I need your superintendent here, and I'm just walking around on FaceTime.
Yeah.
They're not responsible. I'm not responsible, but I walked
So
through.
who signed the final walkthrough?
I sent it to them. But
Oh,
they were on
okay, you did.
FaceTime.
Gotcha.
And then anything that they saw, I took pictures. And then I sent it to them and I put on there. They were not physically here. It was done through FaceTime. They will not hold Wendy Schaller responsible for anything. Like, let me tell you, I document everything.
Yeah.
I will make up my own forms.
Earlier you were talking about forfeiting earnest money. If someone like backs out, where does that earnest money then go to?
So it stays, title is a neutral third party. So they take everything from the buyer and take everything from the seller and they meld it all together. So when you deposit earnest money, it gets deposited at escrow. Escrow holds it. The escrow and the title company are the same, right? So they hold it there. So just because we back out on day 11 and our due diligence is day 10, doesn't mean the seller gets that. There's a dispute now over the earnest money. Both parties have to sign a form that say, yes, go ahead and give it to that other party or release it back to this party. So it'll stay there and it'll accrue interest.
Going forever, right?
It'll accrue interest until both parties have agreed upon who that's going to. So they have to go to mediation if they can't agree. Only once in 20 years has that happened to me. Yeah, but but again, you have to be diligent in what you do and your time frames, and that's why I say my 10-day due diligence. At day 9, I'm asking them what they want to do. I'm not waiting. And my 5 days to review HOA docs, at day 4, I'm saying, did you guys see anything in there? Because at 5 o'clock today, I need an answer so I can figure out what we're doing to try to save your earnest money. And every time you tell the buyer, I'm trying to save your earnest money, they kind of speed up their little process. They're like, okay, I'll get to it tonight. And then I always say, in writing, please tell me I'm good to move forward. You know, I read through the HOAs and I'm good to move forward. I've completed all my due diligence. I'm good to move forward. I get a separate email with that. Text messages do not hold up in court. You want everything in writing in an email or in a paper form, okay? Because we all get used to texting. Don't text, it's not gonna hold up in court. So have them send you an email. Please, great, that sounds awesome. Could you just send me a quick email saying you're good to move forward? That's all you need to do. So that money will sit there until both parties decide who's gonna get it. Let's see. So listing agent, okay, so buyer's agent talks with the listing agent about the repairs, and then you fill out the repair request, send that over. You send over your repair request that you wrote up and your home inspection report that shows who told you that these problems are wrong with that. And then if you get any estimates from any outside companies, send those over and say, hey, this is what they said it's going to cost to repair that. And then you guys can negotiate if they want to repair it, or want to give you a credit, or what's going on with that. And then once agreed upon, they'll wait for the appraisal to come back. Okay, so wait a minute. So with that, if they want to give you a credit, they're going to send you a separate addendum that says seller agrees to give buyer $3,000 credit towards buyer's closing costs. Do not put in lieu of repairs. Just say in closing costs. Because when you put in lieu of repairs, that means it triggers the lender to say, oh, what kind of repairs? Is this even eligible for a loan now? And that opens up a whole can of worms. Even your lenders will tell you, just do not put that on there. Just say $30,000 towards closing costs. That's it, right? So you do a separate addendum with you agree on them giving you something, right?
Tell your buyer not to tell the lender.
Yeah, she had a buyer that told the lender, hey, there's all these repairs.
Plus the repairs could be $20,000 when they're only giving $3,000 credit.
Yeah, and so here's the problem is like FHA loan, you can't have any broken windows or cracked roof tiles. And so if we put that in lieu of repairs, or the buyer says, hey, we got some broken windows we're trying to get fixed, the lender's like, well, we can't get you an FHA loan now. Has to be fixed before close of escrow. But again, you're going to have an appraiser go in there. And the appraiser's going to see the broken windows, and he's going to say FHA doesn't allow broken windows, so guess what? Those have to be fixed before closing. But they might not see the tiles up top. And now the buyer just let the cat out of the bag. You know, not that we want to put them in a position, but if they're giving them a credit to get it fixed, Some things just have to be fixed before close of escrow. So we
So
just,
that's the way it should be worded, like just that amount of money
Mhm.
credit towards.
buyer's closing costs. That's it.
And you may have to ask the listing agent to rewrite.
Many times.
They
Mhm.
keep saying that in there.
But and you tell them, my lender asked me to have you remove in lieu of repairs. That's it. But we really don't want to show the lender that until it's removed. Just don't alert the lender. Okay, once agreed upon, then we all wait for the appraisal to come back. The lender will call the buyers and the buyer's agent to say the appraisal came in at value, the appraisal came in below, the appraisal came in above, whatever. But if that appraisal comes in lower than, say, the house was $400,000 and it came in at $380,000, who knows what happens? I know you know what happens. Do you guys know what happens? What your options are? Okay.
You can, well, they can drop out, they can pull out if they want to, but most likely they're gonna want that difference in money. They're gonna
So-
want the seller to drop. I'm just curious how
So
you
there's a
guys
couple,
do it.
yeah, there's a couple of things. So say it came in at $380,000 and we offered $400,000. The buyer can pay cash for the difference, that $20,000. The seller can drop it $20,000. They can go in half. I'll come up 10, you come down 10, but that difference has to be cash. You know, if the buyer is coming out of pocket, it's got to be cash. You know, if it's going to adjust that appraisal, because the lenders are only going to loan on that appraised value. So if the seller wants more, it has to be cash from the buyer. Or we could just say, hey, we're not coming up and you're not coming down, so we're just going to dissolve, give me my earnest money back and move on. As long as you're in that loan contingency or appraisal contingency time frame, you can back out. So those are your options: lower, higher, or dissolve, and go find another house. There can also be appraisal conditions, like they'll say, hey, we'll appraise it at $400,000 if you fix those windows, if you add a staircase in the garage, like a handrail in the garage, if you cover up all the exposed wires in the patio cover. You know, they can give you all of those things that will appraise it. So now you can't close on it till the seller makes those. And in my case, back in the day, 10 years ago, the seller said, I'm a short sale, I'm not fixing anything. So my husband and I, he's making handrail in the garage and we're covering all these. They had wired for a fan in the patio cover and they had strung wire from one end to the other. Well, we didn't know, and some of it was hanging out. My husband's like, oh my gosh, okay, so they wired for a fan, they didn't put the fan in there. So he's up top here and he goes to pull it and the whole wire comes out. It was just wire hanging in there. There was not even attached to any kind of electrical. But because the appraiser saw a wire, now we had to provide a cap in there and take picture. It was a whole big thing. So they can require that. And most of the time it's done by the seller, but if the seller has no money, now the buyer is forced to make repairs on a house they don't own yet, which is a risky situation there. And always, guys, the seller should always leave utilities on throughout the whole transactions. And I always tell my sellers, you're going to keep those utilities on 3 days after we close, because the buyer has to have time to switch things over. They don't want to put the utilities in their name until it actually records. So we don't know exactly. We might think it's going to record on Thursday, but guess what? They got backed up at the assessor's office, so now it's not recording till Friday. Now you shut them off. They don't have them. They can't move in. It's a whole big mess. So I always say leave them on 3 days after close of escrow. But you'll have some sellers that'll shut them off, and now you can't do your inspections. And now you don't want, they're like, how do you do your, they can't test the water, the gas, the power, nothing. So you have to say, nope, seller, turn those back on, which could take up to a week to get the companies to come out, right? You don't want to turn somebody else's power or water on or whatever in your buyer's names, because if the house floods, guess who's responsible for that? Your buyer. Don't put them in your name either. They're going to tell you, hey, just go ahead, put them on. No, because if something floods, and then they might just say, well, we're not doing it. Then you have to ask your buyer if he wants to move forward with this property. But I'm not doing it in my name. And just know what kind of responsibility you're going to take over if you do that, right?
So what happens if utilities are off during your final walkthrough?
Mm-hmm.
You've gone through inspection, but you're doing the final walkthrough the day before close.
That's
On a vacant
it's up to your
home.
buyer. If he wants to wait, you can definitely have them, no, guys, we need them on. We can't do our walkthrough without it. It might take 5 more days, have to extend, or your buyer can just say, listen, I've got them set for Friday, it's Wednesday, let's just go ahead and do it, and then I won't move in until the weekend. You're not testing anything, but they're just like, sure, go ahead.
Hopefully you didn't have anything that you were wanting to test on that, but you don't know if anything's still is
No,
broken.
no, and here's the thing too, is I tend to go by, when I'm under escrow, I tend to go by that property once a week. And I'm testing things. I'm turning on the lights in every room and then water in the bathrooms and then making sure the inspection came in. Then they had some inspections made. And so I go back after the inspections have been, the repairs have been fixed. And I'll go back in and test everything. And I go double check and I take pictures. And just so I'm documenting that this water, the tub is draining now and like all that stuff.
Do you tell your buyers that you're going to do that?
No, but you could.
Okay.
I don't, because in case I don't get there, then they're like, why didn't you go?
Right.
But I've documented, and every time I do go, I send them information. Hey guys, I stopped by the house. I know they fixed the repair, so I just wanted to show you pictures of it. Feel free, let me know when you're available. I can bring you by, but I just wanted to let you know ahead of time it's already been done. So then that way, at week 3, I've already been there, and when we go to close at the beginning of week 4, I'm like, well, at the beginning of week 3, it was already working. It was still working. They just shut it off at the end of the week. So if you guys want to move forward, we can. If not, I can definitely ask them to extend and turn on the utilities again. But now the sellers are going to have a reconnect fee.
Right.
And then they have to turn everything back on. It could take another 5 days for the companies to turn everything back on. And then it gets shut right back off after you test it. And then the buyers have to get it switched over.
So the listing agent doesn't always know to advise their customers out, right? To leave it on so that until the final thing is.
They know, they just don't do it. And they don't, and sometimes they don't tell their clients in time.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, why'd you shut that off? We have inspections. But in the middle of my listing presentation, I tell them, we're going to leave utilities on until 3 days after close of escrow. So once we go under, we list the property. I know, but
you're the buyer's agent, they're not.
yeah, but sometimes, they'll accept our offer. I'll say, great, we're doing our home inspection. Please leave utilities on until 3 days after close of escrow because we will be doing our walkthrough the day of closing, even though it might be 3 days before. But then you're just warning them, we need that on because everybody knows we need utilities on. They just sometimes forget. Or you get sellers who are like, I'm not paying for it. It's a vacant house. It still has to be on. It still has to be on. And it says that in the RPA. Sorry, my phone's going crazy. Okay, so conditions. Whenever you receive an email from anyone, guys, anybody in this transaction sends you an email, received, thank you. That's all you have to say. Because if you're dealing with me and I send you something and you don't respond within 24 hours, I'm going to send it again, and I'm going to send it again. Please confirm that you've received this. Please, and I will bother you, and I'm calling you, and I'm texting you, because I want to know you got my email, because I did my job. Just tell me you received it. That's all. But you have a hard time. Communication is the #1 problem for realtors. I do not know why. I don't know why. Just like anything. Title sends me earnest money. Thank you, received. That's it. You will always get that thank you received from me. Just get used to doing that so people don't question if you got it, if you understand it or whatnot. But, okay, here's your smart home disclosure we went over. Your SRPD you went over. Your request for repairs we went over. This is your checklist. Right when you open escrow, when you're on your 70-30 split for your 3 transactions, Tim and I require you guys to fill this out as soon as you get an offer accepted, whether you're the listing side or the buying side. We want to know these dates because we follow along with you. Hey guys, it's right before your due diligence period. Are we all good? Did you guys request for repairs? Do we need to do anything? So you're going to fill that out and send that right over to us. And then this is something I put on my folders, and I keep forgetting to bring. I have a big manila folder that I get at the LVR, and on the front there's a whole bunch of things you can fill out. But I will staple this usually on either on the outside or right on the inside. And I open my folder up and staple. I fill this out. Like if I'm doing the listing, it's all the listing stuff at the top, but then halfway down it'll say offer accepted, what date, when I did a counteroffer, when I did an addendum, what day we opened escrow, and I follow along and I make sure all of this is filled out when I have the buyer side, but then the listing side, and then once I get a buyer, I fill out all the buyer stuff too. So it's a way to follow along. So you're like, wait a minute, I delivered the SRPD, but when did I receive the buyer signed SRPD, as a listing agent? So I know that it went out, but I'm still waiting for it to come back. And then that way it helps you because at the end of your transaction, you're going to go in and sign with your clients. It's going to record, and then title's going to send the check over to Maria, right? And then you're like waiting for a check. Well, you still are missing documents in SkySlope, and if you had this checklist, you would know exactly what you needed when you got it, so you could get that. If Maria gets a check, and we don't have all of your forms in there, she can't pay you. It all has to be done. And if you are waiting, and sometimes it's not your fault, like I'm a listing agent and I'm waiting for the buyer signed SRPD. I ask them 3 times, has to be 3 separate emails. Can you please send me over the executed SRPD? Nothing. Now it closes. Can you please send me over the SRPD? Nothing. I go to Maria. I've tried twice. She's like, try one more time. Can you please send me over the SRPD? I don't even wait for the response. I print out all 3 emails, upload those in my SRPD, and she sends me my check. Because it just shows that I tried and they were negligent on that end. So then that way the broker has to sign off on that says, yep, we tried and we couldn't get it back. So just know everything has to be green and completed in the SkySlope, which is what Maria will train you to do. The first transaction, you're going to email everything to Maria, and she's going to, okay, no, well, let's go back. When you guys are in your transactions on your 70-30 split, you guys are going to fill out all your documents, send it to me and Tim, and text me, hey, just sent you a document, can you review it? I pull it up, I review it, make this change, make that change, or just say, yep, it's good. Then you send it to your client to sign, and then you send it to the other side, okay? Once it's all signed and everybody executed it, you send it to Maria, and Maria uploads it in SkySlope. So you're going to do that through the whole transaction, right? So your first transaction, email everything to Maria, she uploads it. The second transaction, she'll work with you, sit with you, kind of work, like show you how everything nice to do. She has SkySlope classes, all of that. The third transaction, she'll say, okay, go ahead and do that. And she's going to come behind you, hey, upload it here, do this, do that. That's why there's an extra $100 fee on your first 3 transactions, because you're going to have your document storage and transaction fee. But then there'll be an extra $100 compliance fee. That's only for those 3 transactions because Maria's helping navigate you through that SkySlope. After that, you can decide if you want to continue to pay Maria $100 to upload everything, or if you want to do all the paperwork yourself. But it's because she's teaching you how to do that SkySlope and making sure your documents are good. So with that, you're going to email everything to her, she's going to upload it, and then it should all be green, or she'll email you, missing SRPD, missing a repair request, missing, and then you go and get it and send it to her and she uploads it. Once it's all good, you'll get an email that says, awesome sauce, your check is ready, or you can Zelle it, and they'll Zelle it right to you the minute we get it, and the minute you're completed, and you're good to go. So it's just how you stay compliant. But we're here to make you guys, in the back end here, that nobody knows we're back here, but to make you guys look good. Because we at Realty One want really good and thorough agents, and we know you're just learning. So the way to do that is for us to just double check and make sure everything is good, because we don't want to be that brokerage, these agents, none of these agents know what they're doing. We got 2,000 agents here in Nevada, 600 just in this office alone. We don't need to be that brokerage company that has those agents that don't know what they're doing. So we work all day and night, like I said, so which I'm changing my hours a little bit. So 8 to 5, I'm here at the office. And then from 5 to 7, my phone will be on. After 7 o'clock, you can leave me a text. I might not answer. I have to shorten my hours in the evening. Weekends, same thing, 8 to 5. So I do get random 4 o'clock in the morning, 11:30 at night on Christmas Eve, like random things. And I get it. But unless it's important, guys, and it's like, oh my God, everything's happening. I've got to send this over right now. But when we're new, we all think it's so drastic. We've got to have an answer right this second. But usually it can wait till the next day at business hours, because even if I answer you, the person on the other end, other side, they're probably not going to answer you anyway. So it's not something that has to be done right that second. So just keep that in mind. But feel free. My cell phone's always on. Call or text me. If you just feel like you need 30 minutes, can you show me how this all works? If we're not having a class on it and there's something you need attention right now, just let me know, and I'll go ahead and we'll block some time. You can come in my office, and we'll work on whatever you need. Okay. Does anybody have any questions on offer accepted? No? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for attending. I'm going to shut this off back here.